Sriram Krishnan, thank you so much for joining the conversation and for doing it here at our Tech Summit with a live audience. This is going to be fun.
Thank you for having me, and it's been looking forward to this. I will say for folks who may be watching this later on YouTube or any platform, they may not realize we are the first in the morning, bright and early here.
We're kicking it off.
We're kicking it off, and we were talking backstage, and we said, okay, we've got to make it fun and wake everyone up. So let's go.
Pressure's on.
Yeah.
Look, I think this White House, you all know, makes a lot of news every single day. One of the areas, though, where there could be some of the most lasting impact is in AI, and that is your domain. I'm going to give a little bit of your resume here because you are the senior policy advisor for AI. You work with David Sachs, the AI czar, but you're a venture capitalist, you're a podcaster, you're a product manager, an author. You've had stints at Microsoft, Twitter, Yahoo, Facebook, Snap. You served as a general partner at Andreessen Horowitz. There was a time when it would be pretty shocking that someone with your resume would end up in a government job. What do you think it says about this administration and this president that you are sitting where you are?
Oh, thank you, by the way. I did not pay her to list out the resume, but thank you for that. But you are right. I think, sadly, there has not been a lot of people from the business world. I come from the world of Silicon Valley, as is obvious, but there's been not a lot of people from the business world in DC, in these government roles. And my story, by the way, is I had really no policy or political aspirations. I was in the world of venture. I was deeply investing in technology. And about a year and a half ago, I got convinced that the country was heading down the wrong direction on AI. I thought we were in a precarious position when it came to all things China and what we're doing on AI policy, which we will get into. And after the election, when David Sachs got named the AI czar, he gives me a call and he says, listen, I would love for you to join the administration. And for me, it was a unique opportunity just because I knew this administration was very aligned with my values and I think with what I felt like we should be doing with AI in this country. And you are right. I think a couple of weeks ago, we saw this dinner with the president, right? Look, there have been so many people from the world of technology and business now as a part of the administration. Forget me and David, I think we're known. Look at Joe Gebbia, one of the founders of Airbnb, built one of the most iconic companies of our time. Now, Chief Design Officer of the United States, right? Trying to redesign experiences that are going to touch hundreds of millions of Americans. So I think that is a testament to the president. I think that is a testament to the people he has brought in, that he's able to pull people from industry into here.
I think one of the fundamental debates in AI right now, and I think a lot of our conversations today will get into this, is this contradiction, this sort of clash between doomers and accelerationists. And neither camp, I think, really loves those descriptors, but I'm curious how you approach that debate, the doom and gloom on AI versus the sort of utopian vision of AI in this role.
Good question, but I want to do something. We want to make this interactive, okay? So let's wake everybody up. So for people in the audience, I have a question. How many of you have used a AI tool of any kind, ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, doesn't matter, in the last 24 hours? Show of hands. There we go. Okay, curious, how many of you use...
I'm raising my hand for those who are listening.
So I think that, we have a very AI native crowd here, so that's fantastic. But I think that shows you something. Everybody in the audience pretty much put up their hands. So look, we are neither doomers nor accelerationists. I think David would say that we are realists. AI is an incredibly exciting and useful computing platform, one that we are in the early days of. And I think the way we see it is, how do we make sure that for the people here or for all Americans or the countries that want to work with us, we are harnessing AI for economic prosperity, to make sure America can kind of win this race. And obviously, look, there are definitely some risks, and we're going to try and make sure those risks are mitigated in any which way possible. But I think the biggest difference between us and the Biden administration is that we see AI through the lens of optimism and rather than fear. So when I see this show of hands, I go like, wow, okay, that is awesome. We have Americans using AI, as opposed to, okay, I'm really scared about everybody here using AI.
Well, okay, let me ask a question of the audience then, too.
Yeah, let's get everyone involved here. Let's get them their money's worth.
How many of you are also a little concerned about AI? I mean, I think we've all, I'll ask you to raise your hands in a minute, but I think we've all seen, you know, the science fiction movies and where the machines take over and are smarter than us and like either enslave us or try to destroy us. Like, how many of you are concerned about that kind of future?
Okay.
Okay, so.
There's a few, I would say maybe 15%, 20%.
More like half.
Well, like, agree, disagree. Let's go. Okay.
But look, I think that the sort of apocalyptic scenarios have been painted for us too, right? And so in this role, like, what do you say to people that are worried about it, and how are you advising the president about the role that government should play in terms of regulating and trying to mitigate some of the potentially negative consequences of AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. Just to get serious here, I think one of David's sayings is that AI is underhyped and AGI or ASI is way overhyped. So when people think about doom and risk, there are a few classes of things they think about. For example, they think about models doing really bad things, or they think about models improving themselves, self-improving, and then essentially becoming sentient or aware, where it then controls you like a Terminator. And if you kind of go on the internet, this has always been the kind of the classic worry about AI just becoming smarter than human beings. What I will say is that we have seen no evidence of that. Have models become more useful in the last 2-3 years? Absolutely. Think about ChatGPT showing up 3 years ago versus now. Models have absolutely become a lot more useful, but there are absolutely no signs that we are on this recursive path where one model rules us all. In fact, if you look at the world right now of AI, there are multiple competitors, which I think is very healthy, and all of these models are within striking distance of each other. I'm sure every 2 months, all of you are very active. You're going to see one model company come out with a launch, maybe Gemini comes out of the launch, and OpenAI comes out of the launch, and they leapfrog each other. And so we're seeing this very healthy competitive dynamic. So for us, I think what is important is, look, we are in an existential race with China. My very first day on the job was the day after China came out with DeepSeek. And just kind of play back here, before that happened, there was kind of this thinking from the old administration that China can never build leading-edge models and we can control AI here in the United States. Well, it turns out it's wrong. They came out with DeepSeek, and it was really a Sputnik moment where we realized that we are in a race where we need to make sure American AI, our stack, our chips, our models are the ones that we use and the world uses, and not Chinese models or Chinese chips. So what we have done over the last 7 months is come out with a plan, the AI Action Plan. And I think the core of it is 3 quick things. One, let's make sure we build our infrastructure. Build, baby, build is what we tell people, which means data centers, energy. Let's make sure we can build these models. Second, we want innovation. We have the leading models right now, but it's a small lead. Let's make sure our model companies have the capacity and the resources and can actually go keep that edge ahead. And finally, let's make sure the world is using our stack. I grew up in the 90s, and the world used Windows and Intel technology, right? And it would be very scary where if we wound up in a world where people are using Chinese models and Chinese technology. So what we see is, like, let's make sure our allies and the world over is using the American AI stack. And one final thought, I love everyone put up their hands. I want to make sure around the world, if people are putting up their hands and saying, I used an AI yesterday, it is on an American model, running on an American chip.
I think you're painting a good picture of what my next question was going to be, which is, what does it mean if we win the AI race? So let me ask you the flip side. What do you think things would look like? What would be the consequence of us losing the AI race to, say, China?
Yeah. So you use the word race, and I think we use it a lot. And people sometimes ask me this question, what does winning the AI race mean? Very simple. It's market share, right? Like, what do we measure AI on? It's tokens, tokens inference. If there is a token inference around the world, I want it to be on an American model, and I want it to be on American chips. And I think losing would mean that one of the biggest, most exciting computation platforms of our time is driven by a model from from a country, halfway across the world, which could be at the heart of critical infrastructure, which does not share our values, and then both our companies and our allies are building on top of. Now, we're not going to let that happen, and and I think what we have done with the AI Action Plan and what we have done with, say, the AI acceleration partnerships the president has struck in the Middle East is all about ensuring the dominance of the American AI stack.
He did also recently allow the sale of microchips from companies like NVIDIA to China in exchange for a cut of the money. Is that going to help China speed up potentially?
So I'm happy you asked this. So I think there are two classes of issues when we think about exporting chips. One is sort of like all of our allies, and the second is to countries like China. And so with our allies, our view is we would much rather have them use our chips rather than the competition. And one of the things I think we've been trying to do with the AI acceleration partnerships is like, let's make sure the world is using, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA, our products and not the competition. Now with China, it's a little bit more nuanced. And so what you're referring to is the H20 chip, or the H20 GPU, I would say, and also AMD's MI through 80. Now these are much older. I think they're 2 years old now. They are way less powerful than the latest and greatest that America has access to, which is the Blackwells and NVIDIA, and AMD has their competitor, and also in much less quantity.
We're not giving them our front lines.
We're not giving them our best. We're not giving them our GPUs in enough quantity. So America is going to have an insurmountable lead in both having the best and also having these superclusters at scale. So for example, Elon talked about how he's going to have 1 million Blackwells by early next year. He already has 500,000. Just Elon, just one of our companies alone. So America alone is going to retain the capacity to build these superclusters. But why do we want to export these GPUs to China? It's very simple. We want to make sure that our ecosystem has market share. And if Huawei gets market share, that means revenue, that means usage, it makes their chips better, it makes them set up to start exporting to other countries.
So for the average American who doesn't really care about market share, they're thinking about their day-to-day lives and putting food on the table, I think much more realistic than the sort of AI machines enslave us scenario is the real question about jobs. And I don't think there's a way to talk about AI without talking about the prospect of massive unemployment. AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton said what's actually going to happen is rich people are going to use AI to replace workers. It's going to create massive unemployment, a huge rise in profits. It'll make a few people much richer and most people poorer. It's not AI's fault, it's the capitalist system. What is your take on that?
First of all, I think you missed the second part of Hinton's quote over there, where he said the answer is communism. And so I think a few people here might disagree with him on that. But look, the vice president...
well, Sam Altman talked about a universal basic income to mitigate for this. I guess the question is, how big of a concern do you think that is? And what should the government be doing to protect people from a massive shift that could happen with AI becoming an integral part of daily life?
Yeah, so the vice president said this best when he was speaking at the Paris summit earlier this year. I think the first week of the administration, where he said, look, we are going to center the American worker in everything we do when it comes to AI. And we have a sense of optimism. We think AI is something that can help people, do their jobs. It can make them more productive and help them be more creative in all sorts of interesting ways. And if you look at the AI Action Plan, there is a lot in there. One, in terms of making sure we are giving people the right skills to go use AI. We are giving kids the right educational resources. Just a couple of weeks ago, the First Lady hosted the AI education event at the White House, which is all about how do we make sure we are harnessing AI and giving kids the skill set to go use AI. So everything that this administration does is going to put the American worker at the heart of how America uses AI.
It's a really optimistic view, and I think a lot of people hope that you're right. But we've seen companies. It's the incentive structure is profit, right? And if AI can do things more cheaply than humans, companies are going to tend to do that. What role do you think the government should play in regulating AI, both in terms of surveillance and some of the more potentially nefarious uses of AI, and also in terms of making sure that people aren't losing jobs en masse in the process, because it's going to be a transition.
Well, I think David says this very well, which is, number one is, if you go look at all the agencies, all the laws that exist, there are tremendous powers in terms of clamping down on bad usage and scenarios all over right now. This industry is so early, right? Like, this is like the internet in the early 90s.
Well, and don't you think the government should have tried to regulate what happens on the internet maybe a little bit sooner?
Well, I would say that we kind of kept our hands off for a while, and that is the reason America has the lead and not Europe or other parts of the world, which basically took a regulation-first approach. Because the truth is, if you're in 1991, how could you have predicted what the internet is going to be? We are in a very, very early era of AI. Just think the last 3 years, we went from chatbots to now agents. We now have long-running agents. We now have agents talking to each other. It's very hard to predict how this world is going to move.
So you think at this early stage, it's better for the government to be hands-off than hands-on?
I'm quoting David Sachs and say, let them cook.
Let the private sector cook. He says that a lot. We've talked about what this winning the AI race or losing the AI race could mean. What do you think in practice, in daily life, if America wins the AI race? Like, if you want people in this room to be on board with like us winning this thing, what is it going to mean for the daily life of individuals?
Well, actually, I want to come back to the reason why I asked everyone to put up their hands, because I think that there lies the answer. And I was listening to this podcast with Satya Nadella recently, where he said, listen, right, like, we are in the early stages of AI diffusing through our economy. Like, we want to make sure every American is doing what people here are doing, which is putting AI into their daily workflows, into their daily habits, and getting utility out of it. I think we are in the early days of that. And for me, what I think about is, how do we get more of what people here are seeing, which is AI making your lives better, making your work better, and kind of figuring out how to get us to economic prosperity.
Is there any area of AI that you think the government should be a little bit more hands-on and do more to regulate?
Well, I think there are definitely some things where governments alone can do. And if you look at the AI action plan, there are areas where we talk about, for example, when it comes to, say, certain kinds of testing, or making sure our adversaries don't get access to certain kind of tooling equipment. There are definitely things that only the government can do. But very broadly, we are in such an early era when it comes to this race. And that's why, if you listen to the president, when he spoke at the AI summit about a month and a half ago, he said, listen, we are in a race, and our competition isn't slowing down. And so we need to make sure that we are harnessing all of our resources and making sure we win. And this is one of the reasons when we talk about, say, state legislation, we don't want California to set the rules for AI across the country.
Well, to that point, actually, one of the things that you and David have kind of railed against is the idea of woke AI. The president signed an EO preventing woke AI in the federal government, and the administration has just made a bunch of deals with OpenAI, Anthropic, other AI companies. Are there certain kinds of models that you guys are concerned about?
Well, thank you. So the woke AI EO is very simple. I highly recommend everyone go read it. It basically says that if you want access to taxpayer money, if you want the government to buy your model, you can't inject an ideology in it. And we don't care which ideology, we just can't have political ideology in it. And we listed a bunch of examples. Folks here might remember about a year and a half ago, when people asked for a photo of George Washington, it gave you a black person, which, it said, or change the race of the Pope. So there are all these examples, sometimes funny and sometimes not so funny, where there are ideologies expressed in our models. And our view is that these models need to be objective, and they need to be truth-seeking, and they need to be very transparent.
That's a version of trying to regulate AI, though, is it not?
Well, I think we are only talking about the government. We are saying that if you want taxpayer money, we just want to be clear that your models don't have ideology, or you go list out your biases. So so I don't think it's regulation. It's basically making sure that any model that goes into the Defense Department, it goes into the U.S. government, doesn't have a hidden agenda. And by the way, it also goes to other countries, right? Like we have models coming from other countries which may not agree with our values. We want to be sure like those are not showing up inside our government.
I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between Silicon Valley and this administration. We have you, we have David Sachs. Elon Musk was, of course, a part of the government for much of the first portion of this administration. How much influence does sort of the tech right and Silicon Valley have in this White House?
I think the way I see it is that this president has made it very clear that look, I can speak to AI. That's my jam. And when it comes to AI, the president has a vision of how to win. And part of the reason I'm here is because I'm inspired by that vision. I want to play a part in it. And I think it kind of speaks to, look, it's like a lot of you, run companies or organizations. Like you have a leader from the top setting the tone, and when you do that and you set a compelling vision, you get great talent to show up. And so whether it's David Sachs, whether it's Joe Gebbia, whether it's Emil Michael in the DoD, there are many, many others. I think they are responding to a leader at the top, setting a vision, and then saying, okay, this is a chance for me to go have an impact and go serve my country.
You and David have both known Elon Musk for a while, so I do have to ask, do you think that a reconciliation is possible between him and Donald Trump?
Well, look, I think as somebody who admires both people, I would love for them to be friends. But outside of that, I don't know. But I greatly admire both of them separately. I'm here in my job now, serving the president. But I hope they will get along at some point in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sriram. Appreciate it, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.